Bonjour tout le monde. Hello. We will start shortly. D'accord. Bonjour tout le monde. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the AP French Cram session number 3, dealing with the conversation task. My name is Ha-Seung Jun, and I am the AP French TA at Fiveable, and I'll be leading the Cram session today. Okay, so just a heads up, this stream is being recorded and might appear on our website, YouTube, and other public channels. So if you want to ask a question, your name will appear on the screen. So please change your name if you want to avoid this. And we have a short video from our CEO, Amanda. Oh no, I don't think the sound's going through. Just a second.
Social media on TikTok, Instagram, or Twitter. Use the hashtags YesWeCram and with Fiveable and tag at Think Fiveable. So one person will win. What up, AP students? It's Amanda here. Social media on TikTok, Instagram, or Twitter. Use the hashtags Yes.
Sorry about that. Okay.
Here from Fiveable, we are literally giving away $100 to pay for your AP exams to like 50 different students. How do you win? Easy. You just got to post about the AP experience on social media, on TikTok, Instagram, or Twitter. Use the hashtags YesWeCram and with Fiveable and tag at Think Fiveable. So one person will win every single day, and this is how you can win. It is going to be a group of students who actually judge the winner. They will pick the winners, and this is how they're going to choose. It has to capture the AP experience. Do they look at that post and think like, that's 100% what this feels like? Is it creative? Is it funny? Does it have a really awesome song in it or really good use of some sort of meme? Anything? Do we see creativity and engagement? How many likes do you have? That literally is going to help you win. The more likes, the more likely you are to win. And then finally, does it incorporate Fiveable? Is it in the caption, what you're wearing, in something that you're doing? How have you incorporated Fiveable into it? So this is how you can win. A couple of quick notes. Make sure you follow Think Fiveable so they can DM you if you've won. You can post as many times as you want. You can post today, tomorrow, every day, as many times during the day as you want, but you can only win once, so keep that in mind. And finally, some of our best social interns came from this contest last year. So if you're really awesome at social media and you're looking for an internship, show us what you've got because we want to hire you. So I can't wait to see your posts. See you on the flip side. Good luck on your exams. Talk to you later.
Okay, so that was a message from Amanda, and I would highly encourage you to take part of this so you can get a feel of everything that Fiveable does. Okay,
what
so
up, AP students? It's Amanda
sorry.
Here from Fiveable. What up, AP students?
Okay, so I think we should start with our French now. So in this stream, we're gonna go over. We're first gonna go over the task and see how the task is set up. Now go over the directions that College Board provides you with when you have to do this task. We'll go over the scoring guidelines, and I'll give you some tips and tricks on how to do the task. And then we'll also introduce examples, and we'll look at some useful phrases to use during the conversation task. We'll also go over the process of what you should think when you're going over this task. And lastly, we'll practice and then analyze student samples provided by College Board. Okay, so the task overview is basically you get 1 minute to read the directions, and then you get, I think, another minute to go over your your topic, and the simulated conversation is on. And then you get 20 seconds 5 times to answer or reply to and engage in the conversation that the task is about. And one really important thing is that when we're going over the directions are always going to be the same. What you can see right here on this slide, these directions are going to be same for every single AP exam unless College Board decides to change these, which means that it might be a good idea to memorize it. So you can use that 1 minute given to look over the topic instead, and then get yourself ready for the conversation. And so if you see here, the directions aren't that hard to read or like memorize. And so the directions say you have 1 minute to read the directions for this task. And I would highly recommend you to instead use this 1 minute to look over your topic. Again, you do have another minute, but having 2 minutes is to prepare yourself. It's far better than having just 1 minute that they provide you with. And so the directions say you will participate in a conversation. First, you will have 1 minute to read a preview of the conversation, including an outline of each turn in the conversation. Afterward, the conversation will begin, following the outline. Each time it is your turn to speak, you will have 20 seconds to record your response. You should participate in the conversation as fully and appropriately as possible. You will now begin this task. So really, the directions don't have that much, so I would recommend you to just indulge in it right away and just go into your topic and get yourself ready for the conversation. And on the other side, it's the French version, but they're all the same. So just memorize what you need to do, and then I think you'll be fine. Okay, so now I have the exam guidelines with you. This is the scoring guideline and how you score the AP exam and the speaking portion. So a 5 is a strong performance in interpersonal speaking. It means that you're maintaining the exchange with a series of response that is clearly appropriate within the context of the task. And then also that means that you provide required information. For example, responses to questions, statement in support of opinion with frequent elaboration. Your response is fully understandable. With ease and clarity of expression, occasional errors do not impede comprehensibility. It is varied and appropriate grammar and with grammar and vocabulary and idiomatic language. The accuracy and variety in grammar, syntax, and uses with few errors. Most consistent use of register appropriate for the conversation. Pronunciation, intonation, and pacing make the response comprehensible. Errors do not impede comprehensibility. Clarification or self-correction, if present, improves comprehensibility. So I bolded some of these adverbs here because if you go to the next slide, which is the exam or scoring guidelines for 4, it's almost exactly the same for all the scoring guidelines except for these few adverbs. So in this, it says it's generally appropriate instead of for 5, which is clearly appropriate. For 5, it's frequent elaboration. For 4, it's some elaboration. And then on 5, it's fully understandable, while for 4, it's fully understandable, but it does have some errors. And for 5, it's occasional errors. And it's varied and appropriate vocabulary for 5. And for 4, it's only varied and generally appropriate. So if you can see here, the exam guidelines for a 5 and a 4 are almost the same, except for a few small little adverbs. So that means that you just need to hit exactly what College Board wants from you. The exam scores are mostly reflected on how well you check off the stuff you need to do. And so basically, if you want to get a 5, you need to clearly be appropriate with your context, and you have to provide a frequent elaboration, fully understandable, occasional errors only, varied and appropriate, and mostly consistent use of register appropriate. And yeah, so 4 is almost exactly the same, which means that in order to get a 5, you need to be more clear, more specific, more appropriate, and more on the spot with your task. And so that's the same for a 3, a 2, or 1, or an unacceptable, or no response doesn't have any scoring guidelines. But as you can see, these adverbs are the only thing that distinguish you from a 4, 5, 3, 2, 1. So it is always important to exactly know what you're doing and make your response very clear and precise and follow the directions, which is the most important thing. Okay, so now we're going to go over a little tips and tricks. So the number 1 tip is always talk for the full 20 seconds. It's always better to go over than under, and awkward silences are not very good when it comes to scoring your task. So if you run out of something, it's better to still say something rather than just sit there and stay silent. It's also important to stay on topic. So if the topic is on, I guess, environment and how you're going to preserve the environment, it's really crucial to stay on that topic instead of going off topic and talking about like how your school is not going well. Like, no, it's always great to stay on topic and provide them the information that they want from you. And as you see, there is a speaking guideline, and you need to follow the directions exactly. So if it says to ask for more information, you should always ask for more information. And if it says to ask a question, you need to ask a question. Also, listen carefully. When you're panicking, it's really hard to understand. And so it's always nice to just calm down, listen carefully, and you'll be able to do it. So don't worry. And also, as I said before, try to start off with what the directions tell you to do and stay on topic. Okay, this is a follow-up to what I previously said, which is to distinguish where you need to agree, disagree, answer, or question something. This is for conversational flow, so the conversation makes sense, which means that if it says on the conversation guideline to ask a question and you don't ask a question, well, the other speaking counterpart, which is the recorded version, will answer a question you should have asked, which will not make any sense and therefore would not be able to give you a 5. Or it says to disagree and you accidentally agree. Well, the person is going to take in your disagreement and process that through and say, oh, well, I'm sorry that you disagree. Maybe we could do something else. That's what they're going to say. And if you agree there, the conversation wouldn't make sense. So this would be really important. Also, make sure to choose between 2 and vous, and choose one and stick to it. If it, first of all, it should be very appropriate. Like the use of the register should be very appropriate. So if you're talking to someone you're very familiar with, for example, friends or classmates, siblings, you should use 2. But if you're talking to a teacher or someone you're not very familiar with, you should always use vous. And so appropriate should be always important, but if you accidentally use the other one, it is better to sometimes stick with it instead, unless it's very obvious that you should have used vous. For example, if it's like a classmate you don't know well and you accidentally use vous instead of 2, you can stick with vous. But if it's a teacher, you should use vous, but if you use 2, it is better to switch in the middle, even though for the last 2 responses you use vous. use to, it is better to use vous. And also, before you start, it is also good and important to write down the vocabulary related to your topic, so you can use it during your conversation. Sometimes, even though you don't know what to say, having the vocabulary in front of you can help you formulate a sentence as quickly as you can. So I would always recommend writing vocabulary, phrases, or verbs, or anything down before you start speaking, when you have 1 minute to read the topic and write down what you know. Okay, so this is an example, and the theme is les défis mondiaux. So already you should think about what kind of défi it is. Is it about environment? Is it about hunger? Is it about forest fires? Or is it you should think of what the challenges of the world is. So if you think about it, you should already be writing down some vocabulary that you know are associated to challenges of the world. And then it says, vous aurez 1 minute pour lire l'introduction, which means that you should, while reading it, you should read carefully and then write down what you should say. Also, you should have used the other minute when you're supposed to read the directions. Okay, and then, so in this example, it's une introduction. C'est une conversation avec Thomas, un camarade de classe. Vous participez à cette conversation parce que Thomas sollicite votre aide pour l'organisation d'un événement. Alors, Thomas, il vous téléphone et vous pose une question. Vous répondez à la question et en donnant des détails. Thomas, il explique la raison de son appel et pose une question. Vous exprimez votre intérêt et demandez des précisions. Thomas, il demande des suggestions. Vous faites des suggestions. Thomas, il pose une question. Vous répondez à la question. Thomas, il prend rendez-vous et pose une question. Vous répondez à la question and terminez la conversation. So this is the conversational guideline that they're giving you, and you should make sure you always follow what they're giving you. So when it says répondez à la question en donnant des détails, make sure you answer the question and also give some detail. When it says exprimez votre intérêt et demandez des précisions, you should make sure that you have to ask for precisions, and you also have to express that you really want to take part of whatever he is asking you to take part of. Okay, so some phrases that are useful, helpful when you're going over this. There is a Quizlet at the end, a QR code and a tiny URL where you can access it. But they're on here to show you that there are a lot of things that you can use as sentence starters or reactions. For example, d'accord, okay, or je pense que oui, I think so. Quel malheur, what misfortune. And so these are really helpful when you're going through your conversation and you don't know what to say or you don't know what to start with. Just start with phrases that express your reaction. When it says to, I guess, express your interest in what Thomas is offering you, then you should use something like c'est intéressant. And then when it's asked you to ask for precision, you can say raconte-moi s'il vous plaît, qu'est-ce que tu vas faire, or cet événement c'est quoi de salt. So yeah, just using these phrases as a conversation starter or a sentence starter can be really helpful when you're going through the conversation task. So there are some more here. I'm not going to go over all of them, but I'd really recommend you going over these phrases just in case they can come in handy. especially when you really don't know what to say, or at the end when you have to terminate the conversation but you don't know what else to say, which can be a problem sometimes. So yeah, here is the Quizlet link. I also attached a tiny URL link, tinyurl.com/Fiveable simconvo SIMCONVO, and there's a QR code here if you would rather use that. Okay, so when you use the when you see the conversation guidelines, this is the process that should go through your mind. When you should have about approximately 2 minutes to prepare, since you should memorize the directions. And so first, have a greeting in mind. Whatever the topic, you always will have to greet the other person and show interest in joining what they are doing. So try to have in mind what you're going to say, how you're going to show interest, what kind of words you want to use. Or it's sometimes nice to just write out the full greeting in your mind, even though it's not going to fit all the 20 seconds. Even having maybe 2 sentences could really help keep it going until the full 20 seconds. Yeah, so I almost have this first response written out with a few interchangeable words, just in case what you wrote doesn't really fit the context. And then you should write down all the vocab words related to your topic even before the conversation starts. For example, if the prompt is about a survey concerning sport activities at school, you should brainstorm words like pep rallies, football, homecoming, and tryouts. Now, and then you should know when to agree, disagree, question or answer, etc., which we already went over. And then you should follow the outline and make sure to do what it says. For example, if it says demander, then ask a question. If it says exprimer, then explain yourself. And then imagine what would be said with a topic in mind and how you would respond. For example, this example that I showed you says that you're going to help him organize an event. Well, have in mind how he might ask, Toma might ask, well, how do you think we should recruit people? Then have in mind what you could say as an idea, and also have in mind what he might say. And even though it doesn't say, it has like a guideline, and just have in mind what is going to be said and what you're going to say, and imagine how that topic will relate to what you should prepare yourself for. And lastly, don't panic. If you mess up, correct yourself and continue speaking. You're gonna do great, so don't panic. Panic can only make things worse. Just have confidence in yourself. And sometimes we aren't really sure what we're doing and we aren't ready, but pretend that you are ready. That will help you definitely, and you will do great, because I know you will. So do not panic, and if you mess up by accident, you can still correct yourself and continue speaking. I will show you some student samples later, and if you see, a lot of people mess up but they still get a 5, so don't panic at all. It's gonna be great and you're gonna do awesome. So we're gonna practice here. Okay, we're going to take out a piece of paper and take notes while the given time. Pretend this is the actual exam and give yourself a little practice. I'm going to turn this on, and it's basically going to be the guide from College Board who tells you that you have like 1 minute to read the directions. And so pretend this is the actual direction, and try to practice and try to respond to what Toma is saying for practice. And that should really prepare yourself for the exam, because practicing is always better than not practicing. Okay, so here we go.
You have 1 minute to read the directions for this task.
Vous aurez 1 minute pour lire les instructions de cette tâche.
You have 1
Oh,
minute to
sorry.
read the directions
I thought it
for
was
this
going on,
task.
but I guess.
Vous aurez 1 minute pour lire les instructions de cette tâche.
You will now begin this task.
Vous allez maintenant commencer cette tâche.
You have 1 minute to read the preview.
Vous aurez 1 minute pour lire l'introduction.
Now the conversation will begin. Press the pause button now to resume the recording.
Maintenant, appuyez sur pause pour continuer votre enregistrement et accomplir cette tâche.
Salut, c'est Thomas. Ça fait longtemps qu'on ne s'est pas parlé. Comment ça va? Quoi de neuf? C'est sympa d'avoir de tes nouvelles. Dis, j'ai quelque chose à te demander. On aimerait organiser un événement pour la journée de l'environnement à l'école dans un mois. Veux-tu nous aider? Je ne sais pas encore. Il y a tellement de possibilités, mais il ne reste qu'un mois pour la planification. As-tu des idées pour sensibiliser les élèves aux questions écologiques? Tu sais qu'aujourd'hui, il y a beaucoup de façons différentes de faire de la publicité pour un tel événement. Qu'est-ce qu'on devrait faire pour attirer nos camarades de classe?
Oh, I don't know why that was turned off.
T'as vraiment de bonnes idées. Écoute, on se réunit vendredi prochain pour en discuter. J'espère que tu es libre. Je peux compter sur toi?
The conversation has ended. Press the pause button now to pause the recording.
C'est la fin de la conversation. Maintenant, appuyez sur pause pour mettre en pause votre enregistrement.
Okay, yeah, so that was it. I'm very sorry that in the middle, the audio suddenly paused. I have no idea why that happened. I'm extremely sorry that it probably felt more than 20 seconds. I am very sorry about that. Yeah, so if you listen to what Thomas said, the first one was Thomas greets the student and notes that they have not spoken recently. He asks how the student is and what is new in the student's life. So this is what Thomas said, and you should have said like, yeah, I am. Well, nothing's like new in my life, or you could say like, yeah, a lot of new things happened. And then for number 2, Toma explains the reason for his telephone call to see if the student is interested in helping with the organization of a school event the next month for Environment Day. So you should have said something like, yeah, I'd be interested in helping you, and you should have asked for precision. Third one says that Toma notes that there are many ways to help, but that they only have 1 month to plan the event. He asks whether the student has any ideas for how to raise student awareness for ecological questions. And so you should have provided your own ideas, opinions on it. And quick note is that you don't really have to say what you actually think. If you can't think of any words to say what you actually think, you can always make up a false identity of yourself and go with what you, I guess, don't really, if there is anything, if you don't believe in anything or something like that, you can always make up a false identity yourself. Or even if you can't really if you can't think of any words that you would like to use to agree with something, and you can only think of words to disagree, it's totally fine to not go with, I guess, your full identity if you possibly can't think of anything else, because this is on a time constraint, so it's best to go as quickly as you can with whatever you have. And then Thomas notes that there are many ways to publicize the event. He asks the student that what they should do to get other classmates interested. So this is like a recruiting question. You can say anything like put up flyers, put it on social media. Yeah, anything like that. Ask to friends, anything like that would be fine. And then number 5, Thomas suggests the student meet with interested classmates the next Friday to discuss the event and ask if he can count on the students to join them. And here you could just say, yeah, you can definitely count on me. I'll see you then. Thank you for asking me. Anything like that. So now we have student sample 3A. This is the student sample, and we're gonna see how the student responded to this conversation task.
Student sample 3A.
Salut, c'est Thomas. Ça fait longtemps qu'on ne s'est pas parlé. Comment ça va? Quoi de neuf?
Bonjour Thomas, ça va très bien. Je ne t'ai vu depuis longtemps. On est ensemble dans la classe, mais je ne te parle jamais. Alors avec moi, il n'y a rien de nouveau vraiment. Je fais beaucoup de devoirs, j'ai beaucoup de travail, donc je n'ai pas besoin. Non, alors je n'ai pas beaucoup de temps pour faire beaucoup de choses, mais je nage, je parle avec ma famille.
C'est sympa d'avoir de tes nouvelles. Dis, j'ai quelque chose à te demander. On aimerait organiser un événement pour la journée de l'environnement à l'école dans un mois. Veux-tu nous aider?
Oui, j'aimerais bien vous aider. J'adore l'environnement, j'adore le jour de la Terre et je pense que c'est très important de aider les gens à comprendre que la Terre est en danger. Mais j'aimerais savoir quand est le jour que tu veux faire cet événement, seulement parce que j'ai beaucoup à faire, mais
Je ne sais pas encore. Il y a tellement de possibilités, mais il ne reste qu'un mois pour la planification. As-tu des idées pour sensibiliser les élèves aux questions écologiques?
oui, je pense qu'on peut faire une présentation devant tout l'école et les dire de le réchauffement global et la serre de la couche d'ozone et on peut aussi faire des projets pour aider la Terre. Alors peut-être on peut faire.
Tu sais qu'aujourd'hui, il y a beaucoup de façons différentes de faire de la publicité pour un tel événement. Qu'est-ce qu'on devrait faire pour attirer nos camarades de classe?
Je pense que si on les inspire, on peut faire un grand email, l'envoyer à toute l'école pour les inviter à savoir sur la journée de la Terre et sur notre projet. Et aussi, on peut envoyer des lettres et peut-être aussi, si on veut faire beaucoup d'avertissements, on peut.
T'as vraiment de bonnes idées. Écoute, on se réunit vendredi prochain pour en discuter. J'espère que tu es libre. Je peux compter sur toi?
Oui, tu peux compter sur moi. Je veux bien participer dans cet événement. J'adore la Terre, comme j'ai déjà dit, et je fais beaucoup de projets pour l'aider. Il faut aussi sauver de l'eau et ne gaspiller l'énergie ni le lit. Donc, oui, j'aimerais bien parler avec.
End of student sample 3A.
Okay, so as you can see, the student responded as they should have to the speaking guideline. So some strength that we could identify from this student sample is that they use all the time allowed. They also have a lot of information packed in. And so they use all their ideas and they try to incorporate all that they want to say into that short 20-second period, which again may seem long sometimes when you don't have anything to say, but this person had a lot packed in. They follow the directions of the speaking guideline or the conversation guideline. They have a strong end to the conversation. This can be kind of hard sometimes because it just says to say goodbye and end the conversation, which can be very hard, but they have a really strong end to the conversation, which is good. They also use a large spectrum of vocabulary related to the environment and the climate. This is really important because if you have a lot of ideas but you don't really have any vocabulary with you, it can be hard to answer the question or have a solid response in your conversation. But not everything is perfect. There are some weaknesses. So there are a lot of repetition of what they want to say or any ideas. Sometimes does not distinguish vous and tu. This was maybe 2 times or once. Does have some minor grammar issues and sometimes lacks coherence. And information is not stated clearly. But as you can tell, it's a pretty strong performance. And I would like you to guess what score the student received. So I am going to I have a poll here, and I would like you to guess on the poll what the student received, what score the student received. Okay. And okay, so wait for a minute. Okay, and I will close the poll now. Okay, so the score that this student received is a 5. And these are from the judges' comments after the exam was over. So this is an example of strong performance in interpersonal speaking. The response maintains the exchange with a series of responses that is clearly appropriate within the context of the task. For example, they say, oui, j'aimerais bien vous aider. Je pense qu'on peut faire une présentation. Je veux bien participer dans cet événement. It provides required information with frequent elaboration. For example, they say, je ne t'ai vu depuis longtemps. On est ensemble dans la classe, mais je te parle jamais. Alors, avec moi, il n'y a rien de nouveau vraiment. Je fais beaucoup de devoirs, j'ai beaucoup de travail, donc je n'ai pas besoin. Alors, je n'ai pas beaucoup de temps pour faire beaucoup de choses. Mais je nage, je parle avec ma famille, ou j'aimerais bien vous aider. Je pense qu'on peut faire une présentation. So it provides the required information. The response is fully understandable, with ease and clarity of expression. Occasional errors do not impede comprehensibility. For example, when the student says quand est le jour de, or les dires de le réchauffement global et la serre de la cape. These do have like an error slightly. Quand est le jour is not a good expression to ask when is it. And avertissement ni le ni is not a good expression either. Vocabulary and idiomatic expressions are varied and inappropriate. For example, le réchauffement global, la couche d'ozone, la terre gaspillée, these are appropriate for the topic. There is an accuracy and variety in grammar, syntax, and usage. When the student says mais je ne te parle jamais, il n'y a rien de nouveau. Aider les gens à comprendre que la terre est en danger. J'ai beaucoup à faire, comme j'ai déjà dit. These are appropriate uses and they are accurate uses of grammar. The response demonstrates a consistent use of register that is appropriate for the conversation. It sometimes uses vous, but it mostly uses tu, which is appropriate for this because since they're classmates. Pronunciation, intonation, and pacing make the response comprehensible, and errors do not impede comprehensibility. What Judge says was événement. The student pronounced it as événement without an accent, but it was still comprehensible, which is why it didn't cause any it did not cause any incomprehensible material. And self-correction improves comprehensibility. So now we're going to go over student sample 3B.
Student sample 3B.
Salut, c'est Thomas. Ça fait longtemps qu'on ne s'est pas parlé. Comment ça va? Quoi de neuf?
Salut Thomas, je suis bien, ça va bien. Et toi, pourquoi tu m'as téléphoné? Est-ce qu'il y a un problème? Oui. Est-ce qu'il y a besoin de me parler?
C'est sympa d'avoir de tes nouvelles. Dis, j'ai quelque chose à te demander. On aimerait organiser un événement pour la journée de l'environnement à l'école dans un mois. Veux-tu nous aider?
Oui, c'est très intéressant. Oui, je peux t'aider. Est-ce est-ce que c'est événement avec un club où est l'événement à l'école ou des autres places? Quel est le sujet?
Je ne sais pas encore. Il y a tellement de possibilités, mais il ne reste qu'un mois pour la planification. As-tu des idées pour sensibiliser les élèves aux questions écologiques?
Écologique. Oui, il y a beaucoup de suggestions que je peux donner. Tu peux faire les papiers pour l'avertissement ou
Tu sais qu'aujourd'hui, il y a beaucoup de façons différentes de faire de la publicité pour un tel événement. Qu'est-ce qu'on devrait faire pour attirer nos camarades de classe?
je pense que tu dois demander à les professeurs si les professeurs peuvent donner les crédits supplémentaires à leurs étudiants pour l'attendance de votre événement. Si l'événement est éducationnel.
T'as vraiment de bonnes idées. Écoute, on se réunit vendredi prochain pour en discuter. J'espère que tu es libre. Je peux compter sur toi?
Oui, tu peux. S'il y a des autres questions ou des autres demandes, questions ou problèmes, laissez-moi savoir. Oui.
End of student sample 3B.
Okay, so as you can tell, this wasn't as strong as the first sample, but it did have some strengths. So it asks for precision when directed to do so. It does use a vocabulary. Ideas about extra credit is used. Does try to use up all the time allotted, though they stopped for a while and then realized they didn't use enough time and then try to fit in some few more sentences. And it was somewhat appropriate context. But again, this also has some weaknesses. It was a weak reading. It was not very strong. It did not tell Toma what was new in their lives. It did not really follow the directions sometimes, which is crucial to getting a 5. And it perceived this to be a phone call, which was actually true. So that should be not here. Does not have much information. Not very much ideas, though it has like the extra credit ideas. It didn't have much ideas about how to advertise this. It uses a lot of and which is not great when you're using a conversation. Or if you're indulging in a conversation, usually you would not use a lot of or So it was not very good. And also, lastly, there's no strong end to the conversation. It just said like, you can. And there weren't really like anything specific enough. And it was very hesitant as well, which is not good when you're in a conversation. And so I would like you to guess again what this student received as a score. Okay, I'll wait for some responses. Okay, and I'll close this poll. Okay, so this student received a 3, which is a fair performance. This is an example of fair performance in interpersonal speaking. The response maintains the exchange with a series of responses that is somewhat appropriate within the context of the task. For example, it says, well, ça va bien et toi? Où est l'événement? It provides most required information. Il y a beaucoup de suggestions à que je peux donner. Tu peux. The response is generally understandable with errors that may impede comprehensibility. Est-ce qu'il y a besoin à me parler? Je peux te aider, which has some grammatical errors. The vocabulary is appropriate but basic. L'événement, l'école, place, avertissement, la tendance. Place is a plaza in French, so that clearly shows the weakness in vocabulary here. The response demonstrates some control of grammar, syntax, and uses. C'est très intéressant, tu peux faire. Je pense que tu dois demander si les professeurs peuvent donner leurs étudiants. Which has some control but not full control over it. Pronunciation, intonation, and pacing make the response generally comprehensible, but errors occasionally impede comprehensibility. For example, crédit is not extra credit, should not be called crédit, should be called points supplémentaires. And self-correction sometimes improves comprehensibility. For example, s'il y a des autres questions ou des autres demandes, questions ou problèmes, they try to fix that loss by saying problème instead. So this is an example of a 3. It is not as strong as the first one, which gained a 5, but this is a fair performance. So now we have student sample 3C.
Student sample 3C.
Salut, c'est Thomas. Ça fait longtemps qu'on ne s'est pas parlé. Comment ça va? Quoi de neuf?
Ça va, je suis très bon. Je fais plus d'activités en école. Tu es bon. Tu es bon.
C'est sympa d'avoir de tes nouvelles. Dis, j'ai quelque chose à te demander. On aimerait organiser un événement pour la journée de l'environnement à l'école dans un mois. Veux-tu nous aider?
Oh oui, c'est une bonne idée. Je suis très intéressant. C'est une bonne idée pour tester l'environnement. Quoi est les détails?
Je ne sais pas encore. Il y a tellement de possibilités, mais il ne reste qu'un mois pour la planification. As-tu des idées pour sensibiliser les élèves aux questions écologiques?
J'ai plus de sujets pour ton événement. Il y a beaucoup de dédications que...
Tu sais qu'aujourd'hui, il y a beaucoup de façons différentes de faire de la publicité pour un tel événement. Qu'est-ce qu'on devrait faire pour attirer nos camarades de classe?
C'est une bonne idée. Le caméra est et c'est important pour communiquer les problèmes.
T'as vraiment de bonnes idées. Écoute, on se réunit vendredi prochain pour en discuter. J'espère que tu es libre. Je peux compter sur toi?
Oui, je très intéressant avec ton idée et je parler avec toi.
End of student sample 3C.
Okay, so as you can tell, this was not as strong as the first one. And well, it did have some strengths. So there's an attempt to follow the directions, even though for some reason, they were not able to fully elaborate on what they wanted to say. They try to fill in all the time, so there's no awkward silence. However, if you take out all the ums and uhs, you will end up with maybe like a second sentence, which is not great when you have to fill up almost 20. It does attempt to provide ideas, but again, based on French speaking ability, they were not able to fully elaborate on their ideas. So there are a lot of weaknesses too. A lot of use of us and ums, which is not great, but I guess since they were trying to fill up all the time, it was noteworthy. It's hard to comprehend what they're trying to say. There are a lot of grammar issues. Little vocabulary is used, so they're very basic words that all fourth graders would be able to use in France. Repetition of simple vocabulary does not really stay in context. Sometimes they don't really understand what Thomas is asking them, and does not provide much ideas, which again might be due to short vocabulary. So now I would like you to guess what score the student received. I will open the poll. Now wait a little. Okay, now close the poll. Oh, sorry, grammar is not going to delete. I forgot one. And the score the student received was a 2. There isn't really surprise. So this is an example of a weak performance in interpersonal speaking. The response partially maintains the exchange with a series of responses that is minimally appropriate within the context of the task. For example, they use ça va, c'est une bonne idée, but that's about it. Provides some required information that is partially understandable with errors that force interpretation and cause confusion to the reader. For example, they say le caméra est une, which has, I don't know why they mentioned the camera, and it says je suis très bon, which is saying like I'm a very like good person kind of thing. Protester l'environnement, which means like to protest the environment. I think they were trying to say protect, but it was the wrong word was used. It demonstrates limited vocabulary resources and limited control of grammar, syntax, and uses. For example, they say je suis très intéressant, which is like I am very interesting, instead of saying I am very interested. Je suis très intéressé. Et quoi les détails? Un bonne idée, not a bonne idée, which is masculine, feminine, gender matching. Je parlais avec toi, which is very poor grammar uses. Pronunciation, intonation, and pacing make the response difficult to comprehend at times. There are a lot of us, so like il y a, j'ai, plus de suggère pour ton événement, il y a beaucoup d'éducation, which again are not very. They're not part of a strong performance. And self-correction does not improve comprehensibility. So tu es bon, that did not really help at all with what they were trying to say. So that is it for our Cram session today. Thank you for joining, and bonne chance à tous sur les examens d'AP. Je vous souhaite un grand succès. You got this. Take a deep breath and you'll do absolutely amazing. It's not that hard. All you need to do is really just know what you're going to say, follow the directions, and hit those check marks, and you will do great. The exam is very Fiveable, and you guys are going to do awesome. So just take a deep breath, don't panic, and I know you're all going to do amazing, and I hope you all get a 5 on your exams. Thank you for joining me. I'm the French TA at Fiveable, and this was Ha-Seung Jun. And to keep the conversation going, join us on Discord for forums held by the TAs. Thank you so much for joining, and I hope you guys have a wonderful evening. Thank you.